Hello everyone and welcome to an ESO build video where today we are finally covering my Magic DragonKnight PvP build, the Pit Demon. And before we get into this, guys, I just want to say I am sorry. It took me so long to get this out. I procrastinated hard on this one. I'm sorry, guys. I'm working on fixing that issue, but as I said, it blew by so fast and I just procrastinated hard on this build. But with that being said, it still works. I did test it this morning. Still works fine. So with that, we'll hop right into this thing. So starting off, we are in a CP campaign. By the way, I have been playing this a little bit in CP, and it is kind of fun. I didn't used to play CP very much, but I've been enjoying it a bit more recently. Anyway, nearly 35k mana, a a lot of health. 28k health, nearly 20k stam, sitting at 19.2. 1240 mag recovery. The other recoveries really don't matter. It's just very small mag recovery. A lot of max stats to play with. Raw, completely unbuffed spell damage sits at 2298. Not bad. And as you can already guess by looking at the resist, we're a light armor build. Going down to a little list here before we go into anything else. Apparently we do have some scrolls, so keep that in mind. We do have what is this? Slightly more spell crit and slightly more spell damage than we should. So keep that in mind throughout the build video. I didn't even think to look at these until now. Anyway, we have the Apprentice Mundus Stone. This is because I'm a spell damage focused build. The max mana is nice, but this is primarily a spell damage build, and I really can't think of a better boon to run. Though if you are feeling squishy, you could run the resist boon. You want more pen, you could run the lover. You can really experiment with these. I just like the spell damage because it gives more healing, gives more damage. It's really useful. For food buffer, running Tri-Stat food. Honestly, I can't, to me, Mag DK needs this. You have to have that stamina to block and move around with, because you're basically a stamina build, technically, with how much melee you're doing. You're not sitting at ranged, you're not safe. You're constantly having to roll dodge and break free. So getting that extra stam is super useful. I highly recommend this food buff. And we are a stage 3 vampire. This is normally stage 4 because I use Mistform on this build. So it doesn't really matter. Stage 4 is not a big detriment anymore. Normally I would have said Vampirism is kind of a wrong turn for a lot of builds. But with the decline of Dawnbreaker and the fact that really most of the OP dots right now are straight magic damage and don't deal fire damage, the whole weakness to fire and fighter's guild abilities really doesn't apply very much anymore. I've only seen about 2 people using Dawnbreaker this entire patch so far. So, like I said, Vampirism is almost all gain now. So, very, very worth running in my opinion. Figure we'll go through the skills real quick before I go through the gear. Since I normally go through the gear first, we'll switch things up and see if I like this format better. But for the front bar, we are running Ellie Drain. Standard debuff for DK. This is one of the reasons why we can run so low recovery. You need this a lot. Burning Embers. Burning Embers is amazing. Don't ever give this up. This is such a powerful freaking ability. 1, it does an ass load of damage. But 2, look at that. 96% of the damage inflicted I heal for. You can stack this on a ton of people too. So this is your lifeline right here. Keep this stacked on as many people as you can. Refresh it whenever you need a burst heal. It's super cheap. And like I said, it's just such a cheap and powerful heal, and it's a really strong dot, so keep it up. Next up, we are running Engulfing Flames. This is really used for only 2 reasons. 1, knock Nightblaze out of stealth. You can spam this like so, and this will pull them right out of stealth. And 2, we are running this because the 10% damage buff it gives to our flame attacks, which is primarily important to buff the hell out of our Molten Whip. This is a burst focus build, by the way, guys. If you want to run more of the dot meta, then I would recommend replacing this with Molten Whip, Flame Lash, and replacing this with Soul Trap. Moving on. Next up is Whip. You can run either morph. I have enjoyed both. Molten's what I've been using recently, but Flame Lash is just as fun. I've tested both. They're both really good. Primarily the reason I'm using Molten Whip right now, though, is because I'm running a burst focus build. I really need to kill people fast. I really need to kill them fast, and this does that. You hit them with Burning, you hit them with Engulfing, you maybe hit them again with Engulfing, Shatter, Leap, Molten. For the most part, if they're squishy, that'll kill them outright. It's that strong of a burst combo. It will pretty much just kill them outright. I said Burning, Engulfing, Shattering, Leap, Whip. Kills just about any squishy build, and if they survive, whip them again. Like I said, very, very good. Next up for our stun, we are running Shattering Rocks. I do prefer this personally to Fossilize. I like the healing it gives me. It just helps out my sustain a lot. 2-for-1 special pretty much. Especially since the cost of this ability was nearly doubled during this patch. Shattering just gives you a little more bang for your buck than the Immobilize, in my opinion. Especially with everyone running Purge, most people can get out and Immobilize in half a second flat anyway. So, I prefer Shattering, but run Fossilize if you prefer that. One could also make an argument, and I have tested this, but I wasn't a big fan. You could run the Vampire Drain. Where is it? Invigorating Drain or Accelerating, dealer's choice. One gives you Minor Expedition, one gives you Ult Gen. Either way, you could run the Vamp Drain. It's just not bad, actually. I would not recommend trying Flame Clench. The only reason I don't recommend it is because that's a knockback, and that's really not beneficial to you. You don't want your enemy getting away as a DK. Last up on the front bar, we are rocking Ferocious Leap. This is my favorite ultimate in the game. I say that about a lot of ultimates, but honestly, there's nothing more satisfying than just squishing people with Leap. It's so much fun. It does a ton of burst damage. It gives you a good damage shield. Gives you it helps you out with your battle roar. All in all, it's just a fantastic ultimate. I love it. There's nothing better to say about it. It's just a really good ultimate. Plus, it stuns everyone in a small area, so if you're outnumbered, it's a good way to get people off you temporarily. Okay, back bar. We are running Volatile Armor. Can run either Volatile or Hardened, really doesn't matter. I do prefer Volatile on Mag DK and Hardened on Stam because the dot on Mag DK is actually worth something compared to Stam. Also, again, this helps you pull out any form of Nightblade in the area, helps you deal with that problem. But basically you just need an armor buff, so you could run Volatile, Hardened. I don't really think there's any other armor buff for Mag, so... Oh, yeah, I guess you could technically make a thought for balance, but honestly, in PvP, I wouldn't recommend this. Next up, we have Mist Form, or Elusive Mist. Major Expedition, turns you into a little cloud, takes 75% less damage while you're moving. It's glorious. You're also immune to all disabling effects. But you can't be healed and your magic or recovery is disabled. So... it's got its drawbacks, but it's a great kiting tool. It helps us move, especially for a slow class. Gets us out of those pesky situations. You can't really spam it because you'll run out of mana, but you can use it to get away, and it's enough to break line of sight without you having to waste a ton of mana spamming Coag. Which, speaking of Coag, actually, before I go into that, the other alternative to this would be Race Against Time. I have the wrong morph here because I was doing this for a trial the other day. But Race Against Time is what I'd recommend replacing Elusive Mist with if you don't want it. You just need a snare. You need some way to break the snares. The Templar snares this patch are absurd. And because we don't have a Purge, snare immunity is the next best thing. For our burst heal, we are running Coagulating Blood. Big freaking heal. Unbuffed, it's 9.2k. Increased up to an additional 33% based on my missing health, and that's not including the fact that if my spell damage is up, this is a big heal. This is a really big heal. I've ripped this thing for like half my health bar. So, and that's with the heal debuff coming out of PvP. It's a big heal, but it's an expensive heal. You really don't want to spam this unless you have to. And I really wouldn't recommend hitting this unless your other options are not working. They might have dodged you up real bad and these heals simply can't keep up, like all your other sources of healing. In which case, you'd pop this when you get low. But, like I said, try to hold on to Coag. Use your other heals first. Either way, it's a great emergency heal. Speaking of more healing, we got Structured Entropy. I don't like the dot meta. I'm going to say that now. But I would be running Structured Entropy on this build regardless because I need the sorcery buff. The heal is actually super useful. And like I said, the dot's actually, the dot's nice. 20k magic, it's another Burning Embers dot, basically. It's about the same damage as Burning Embers. But it heals you for 1,300 every 2 seconds. Now, that doesn't seem like a lot. I know, off the bat, that does not sound like a lot. Until you cast it on 2 people. And then 3 people, and then 4 people, and you see where I'm going with this. You, just like Burning Embers, you can stack this. So before you go into a fight, I highly recommend putting this on a bunch of people coming into the fight. Because now you'll have about, 3.9k healing or 5.2k heals every 2 seconds. It gets really big really fast, and it helps you counter the dot meta, which is absurd right now. Next up on the list, we are running Radiating Regeneration. For solo play, run Rapid. Run the other morph. The only reason I've been running Radiating is because in Battlegrounds, Rapid has a bad tendency of not going to you when you need it because it only can heal one person at a time. So you'd have to spam it multiple times to get it. This way, you're more likely to get your heal, albeit half of what you should have gotten. So, like I said, run Rapid in solo, but run Radiating whenever you're playing on group play because this at least guarantees you're getting a heal. And last on the list, we are running Life Giver. I love this skill. It's basically immortality for 5 seconds, but it also gives us, thanks to our resto skills here, gives us a cast of Radiating, gives us a cast of Healing Ward, and Combat Prayer. Now, Combat Prayer is beautiful because 8% flat damage for the next 8 seconds, just because you popped your ultimate. Kind of means you can use this ultimate offensively. If you're ready to push your offense, you can use Life Giver to secure a full 5 seconds of immortality while you're doing it. And, like I said, gives you good damage buff. So, keep that in mind. Life Giver is not necessarily just a defensive ultimate, though you're primarily only going to cast this when you're in desperate need of some heals. And again, procs Battle Roar, so, sustain. Also, the other reason I like this is it costs the exact same as Leap. So you're not saving for an ultimate. You're not going, oh, I should have just saved for my defensive ultimate instead of wasting this. As soon as your ultimate is ready, you can pick from either one. They're both ready to go. I really like that about this. It's proven pretty useful because it means I'm not sitting there waiting for an ultimate ever. If my ult's up, I know I have both offense and defense at my fingertips. And both my ultimates serve a dual purpose. This is an offensive ultimate that gives me a damage shield. This is a defensive ultimate that gives me an 8% damage buff. So both of them are slightly dual purpose too, allowing you to kind of adapt to the situations much easier. Were I to run something else, you could run Temporal Guard. You wouldn't cast it, you'd just be getting 8% damage mitigation. You could run Magma Shell. In groups, you could run Standard, probably shifting. You have a lot of options. You guys run Eye of the Storm if you want to. Like, you could run a lot of different things. Granted, Eye of the Storm would have to be on your front bar. Never mind. I'm dumb. But I said I really like Life Giver. It's a really, really good buff. So that is it for the skills. Let's move into the gear. And first off, as I said, we are a light armor build. We are 2 heavy, I believe. No, we are actually a 5-1-1 build. Okay. So first set, as you can see, is Clever Alchemist. We are running the 5-piece of that. Gives us 2,000 extra health, some extra spell damage, and then whenever we drink a potion, we get a lot of spell damage for 15 seconds, 638 unbuffed. It's a lot of spell damage, especially when we have major sorcery buffing this. Very, very nice. Where else are we looking at here? So, this is on our body, by the way. I have front barred Burning Spellweave. Now, Burning Spellweave, basically the same principle. It's a bunch of spell damage for 8 seconds whenever it procs. It procs the burning status effect, which helps us out with sustain. And it's just, like I said, it's got good uptime. The reason I chose to front bar this, though, is 1, it took me months to farm this damn staff, and I'll be damned if I'm going to let it sit in my bank and not use it. And 2, I really only want this proccing during my offensive window, so I'd rather it not proc on my back bar. I want this to proc when I'm ready to go offense. That being said, the spell damage does carry over to your back bar, so if you need to go back and use the coagulating blood, it'll still buff that as well. But as I said, I really only want this proccing on my front bar. So, thus, it is on my front bar with the Nirnhoned Inferno Staff. The enchantment does not matter, by the way. I use poisons on this build. Let me find them. Forgot to put those back on. You can either run Drain Mana Poisons, or there they are. Sorcery Draining Poisons. I love these things. Anyway, I'll get back to those. So, the Burning Spellweave front bar with an Inferno Staff. Clever Alchemist with 1 heavy and 1 medium on the body. And we are running Light Blood Spawn. Blood Spawn is just fantastic. Resist, alt gen, stam recovery, all things a Mag DK needs. It's a glorious, glorious set. I really couldn't imagine running this build without it. I believe we are in 7 Impen. We are. So 7 Impenetrable. We are using Magica Glyphs on the small pieces and Prismatics on the big. For the jewelry, we are in 3 Arcane. I do prefer Arcane on Mag DK despite being a damage build. You need the stats. Because you're going to be pushing your stats very, very hard on this build. The sustain is tuned to be exactly what you need. So I like having the extra Arcane in there just to get the extra resources. You could run Infuse, though, if you wanted. But you'd be cutting your sustain pretty close. 1 spell damage, 2 recovery. In a CP campaign, you could make an argument to actually replace this with a spell damage glyph as well. But primarily, since this was mostly for non-CP, I needed the extra recovery just a bit. Just a bit. So I chose to just stick it out even in CP. But as I said, if you can sustain it, you could make an argument to run another spell damage here. I said front bar is a Nirnhone Burning Spellweave Staff. We got our Sorcery Draining Poisons, which are minor Cowardice, increasing the enemy's ultimate costs, minor Sorcery for myself, and gives me a slightly less duration version of the Magic Drain Poisons. So run these or Magic Drain, doesn't matter which, but they give you a lot of sustain for free. They also only proc in the front bar, which again kind of helps give you that sustain you need during your offensive window. And back bar, Maelstrom Restoration Staff. Love this thing to death. I'm running an Infused Berserker glyph on it, just to let you guys know. But when you critically heal with regeneration, you restore 800 mana. This can occur every 4 seconds. Another reason to run Radiating Regeneration instead of Rapid. This almost guaranteed to proc twice. This should proc twice every cast, which is roughly about half the cost of the regeneration. 1,600 mana back. This helps you sustain your heals a lot. It's really, really helpful. So, if you don't have this, though, you could make an argument for a Black Rose Resto Staff. I've used that as well. I did not like Healing Ward quite as much. I valued the sustain more. But, like I said, Black Rose Restoration Staff works fine here, too. Barring that, if you don't have either, you don't want to farm a Maelstrom, you don't want to farm a Black Rose, you could run a Willpower here. You could double down on BSW on your back bar if you want. Like, you can literally run anything back here you want. The bar layout really will remain unchanged, except for if you add a Black Rose on here. But I like the Maelstrom Restoration Staff. It was a perfect fit for this build, and I'm really, really glad I'm running it. So that is it for the gear, and last but not least, we are going to look at the CP. Now, bear in mind, champion points are very personal. What might work for me is not going to necessarily work for everyone else. That, and also, I'm mostly a non-CP player. So my champion point skills, let's just say, might be a little lacking. So if you guys would like to make changes to this, just go for it. Trust me, it could be worth experimenting. I found champion points are definitely worth experimenting with. There's some interesting things you can do with it if you set it up right. But if you just want to copy my setup, word for word, we are running 61 Ironclad, 53 Resistant, 44 thick-skinned. You might want to buff this with the dot meta and take some out of Ironclad. I didn't think about that when I made the CP. 43 Hardy, 37 Elemental Defender, and 32 Quick Recovery. For green, we are running 56 Warlord. Gotta get that break-free cost down. 11 into Sprinter because we are a slowpoke as a DK. 75 Arcanist. I did this mostly because my recovery is so pitiful. At least this makes up for it a little bit. An argument could be made to shift the tenacity and the Arcanist around because you won't lose much recovery, but you'll gain a lot of return from heavy attacks. So choose how you like. I like the recover. I don't like the heavy attack much. So 27 in tenacity only for the occasional heavy attack and 75 in Arcanist. On the back here, we don't block much either. So 81 Tumbling, 20 into Shadow Ward. You can play around with these a lot. As I said, I don't block very much. I do more dodge rolling than blocking. So I wanted to make sure it was nice and cheap for when I did it. But if you find yourself blocking more, maybe put like 44 here and 56 here. Experiment with these two values a bit depending on whether you block or dodge roll more. And for blue is definitely one you might want to augment depending on playstyle. So 32 in the Blast, big heals. 48 Elfborn. God, I can't talk now. 64 Elemental Expert, 37 Spell Erosion, 66 Master at Arms, and this is why I said you want to experiment. 23 Thaumaturge. As you can see, we are not running hard into the dot meta at all, despite having 3 dots in the build. This is because I'm a burst build. That's why I put so much into Master at Arms. I am not looking to dot people up and watch them burn. I'm looking to dot people up simply to get my buffs and my heals, and then I'm looking to burst them down. If you would prefer to play with Soul Trap, if you would prefer to use dots, I would recommend probably pulling some out of Blessed. Pull a bit out of Blessed, shuffle that into Thaumaturge, maybe even bring this down to 56 and put that into Thaumaturge as well. Like I said, I personally play very burst heavy and don't really rely on dots all that much, so I didn't see the big need for Thaumaturge. If you would like to play more into that, though, and it is effective, I have tried it, pump some points into Thaumaturge. But, alright guys, so that is all the CP. I think that was the whole build. I am going to just kind of scroll through here a little bit more. Oh, race, that's what I'm missing. I know I'm always missing stuff. It's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. So for race, we are a dark elf. Pretty easy to tell with the pointy ears and whatnot. But main reason I chose dark elf was one, extra stam, extra mag, a lot of flame resist and immunity to burning status effect, which is helpful considering we are a vampire, and mostly ruination. A lot of big spell damage buff here. It's really, really good. Gives us a lot of bonus damage. The other races I would honestly recommend for this actual spec would be Breton or High Elf. Now, if you play a High Elf, nothing in the build will change. Nothing in the build. You'll lose some stam, but you'll gain some stam recovery. So, big whoop. You use a lot of class skills, so like I said, High Elf is definitely viable here. If you run Breton, your sustain is going to receive a significant boost, in which case you can probably pull out of some of your recovery glyphs and shift them over to spell damage glyphs to make up the difference. Really, there's not much difference between these three races, to be perfectly fair. There really isn't. They all play very similar to each other. You got to play with the build just a little bit to make up the differences, but they're practically identical for almost every sense of the word. So I said any of the three magic races. One could also make an argument for Argonian here with the extra stat return from potions, but I am running tri-stat potions, so you don't really have to. Where is that? I mean, this plus Battle Roar is already plenty of stamina return. I really don't think Argonians are necessary for this build, but if you like to, it is a lot of extra recovery to work with. I've heard a friend also tell me he likes Nord for his mag tunes, and I can understand that. You lose a decent chunk of damage. You lose a lot of damage, but you gain a lot of resist. You gain some ult gen. I don't like stam races on mag tunes. I personally don't, but a friend of mine says he does, and it works well for him running stam tunes on mag characters sometimes. So if you want to give that a shot as well, like I said, I've heard secondhand it works well. I personally don't like it. But with that, guys, that is the entire build. Again, so sorry that it took me so long to get this thing out. I'm not gonna let this happen again. I'm really, really striving not to let this kind of crap happen again. So with that, you guys should be expecting a Stam DK build within the next couple days. Also, I will not be including gameplay with the footage for this time around. It just takes a bunch of extra time for me to find copyright-free songs that I actually like, and I don't want to keep playing repeats for you guys. So rather, if you would like to see gameplay of this build in action, come check us out on Twitch. I'm streaming ESO 4 nights a week right now. Usually I'm PvPing 3 of those days minimum, and give or take almost 1 every day as a Mag DK. Mag DK shows up almost every week. I love this class. So, anyways, guys, I will catch you on the next one. Have a great one, and yeah, I will see you later. Also, that was a terrible outro, but whatever. Have a good one, guys.